Thank you all for being here today. This is really a wonderful, wonderful privilege, I think, for me, for the university, to host Maria Elena Durazo this afternoon for the first Academic Senate Distinguished Lecture on Engagement, Service, and the Public Good. So this is an inaugural lecture. It is a very, very important event for us, and I think helps us set a vision for the future. I look forward to it being, as Kevin said, the first of many. I want to, before we begin, take a moment to thank Professor Rita Ledesma for really helping to make this event happen. Rita, thank you very much. As you know, as I mentioned, this is day 2 of Investiture Week. This will culminate on Friday when we all get robed up and process in and have a quite grand ceremony with an official investiture. And I hope that all of you will be able to join us in the Luckman Theater for that. The theme for the week, indeed, is the university's dedication to engagement, service, and the public good. I cannot think of a Los Angeles leader who more fully embodies that than Maria Elena Durazo, and that's why the California State University system and its chancellor and its trustees and Cal State LA are very proud to be looking forward to awarding her the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters for 2014. She'll be accepting this award during our June commencement ceremony, so you will have the pleasure to hear from our new Doctor of Humane Letters at that time once again. During her talk today, Maria Elena is going to share with you her story, and I'm not going to then in advance rehearse her extensive and distinguished and impressive resume, but suffice it to say that her story is like that of so many Cal State LA students. The daughter of Mexican immigrant farm workers, she went on to be the first in her family to go to college. Today, she is one of our most prominent civic leaders, serving as the Executive Secretary-Treasurer of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, which represents over 600,000 working women and men, and is known for providing her members, for providing all of us with a voice, with a megaphone, really, to affect change. Maria Elena's career and its impact, I think, serve as an example to all of the students of this university of what can be achieved through dedication, education, and hard work. And we are very grateful to have her here with us today and look forward to what she will share with us. Folks, Maria Elena Durazo.
Thank you, President Covino, for the introduction, and congratulations to you for becoming the leader of this university and for what you've already started to implement and the changes you've already started to make with the new center. It really shows the connection that you insist on making, taking it to another level, the connection between this campus, this university, and the community in which you are located. I also want to thank John Ramirez, David Diaz, and Rita Ledesma for helping me get here, making it possible for me to get here, and your academic chair, Kevin Baskey. Thank you, Kevin, very much. I also want to acknowledge Lillian Tays, president of the California Faculty Association, for your friendship and involvement in the labor movement, and all my sisters and brothers in all the units represented on this campus, in addition to the CFA, the State University, California State University Union, employees, the academic professionals of California, and the United Auto Workers, all who play a very important role in the life of this university. I know the title of this lecture held during Investiture Week is very fitting, as President Covino said, about engagement, service, and the public good. And what they mean, what those words mean for the university through actions and not just rhetoric. And you already took the step with the center, and you are already the providers, someone said to me, the largest provider of human services on the East Side. That's a really different way of describing the work that you all do every single day. And as usual, we're all challenged to do even more. Where is our vision going to take us? What's the next level of the role for this university? You know, engagement, service, and the public good also are the central mission of the Los Angeles labor movement, a movement that I'm privileged to lead on behalf of breadwinners, working class men and women, and their sons and daughters, who frequently have ended up on this campus. No one lives in a vacuum, and that is certainly true of this great and fine university. You are surrounded by communities where working men and women who are currently represented and those who aspire to be represented through a collective voice by a union, where they live and they work hard. Some earn good middle-class wages. Teachers and faculty, firefighters, law enforcement, some actors, not all, longshore workers, but yet more often than not, many work for poverty wages as they struggle for a better future for their families. If those working parents struggle hard enough, and if their children are committed and lucky enough, some of them end up at Cal State LA. Many students on this campus are the first in their family to go to college. Many are first generation, the children of immigrants. Many students are immigrants themselves. Some are even dreamers, born in a different land, brought to this country without legal papers at a young age by parents who were escaping hunger or simply seeking a better future out of love for their family. I appreciate more than you know the struggle it takes to get here and the sacrifices it demands of both parents and students, because I too was the first member of my family to graduate from college. And I was never supposed to make it to a college campus like this. I was born and raised not too far from here in the great Central Valley of California. But it might as well have been in a different world, growing up as one of 11 kids in a migrant farm worker family, laboring in the fields in the 50s and the 60s before Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and the farm workers movement offered us any relief. And some images are forever seared in my memory. My baby brother, Ricardo, died from a common illness. It could easily have been treated if we had been able to afford a doctor in time. They carried his small white casket down the aisle of the church. The priest took up a collection so we could properly bury him. My older sisters constantly battled sexual advances from the foremen and the labor contractors. My dad, who had more daughters than sons, was always vigilant, always protecting his girls from abuse. Those were the days before toilets in the fields, before clean drinking water, before state-guaranteed lunch and work breaks. There was no workers' compensation or unemployment insurance. It was humiliating not having even a toilet. You'd go with other women who wrapped their skirts around you to protect your privacy. I clearly remember the crop dusters flying low to spray pesticides on the fields right before we entered. Or poisons were sprayed in the fields adjacent to where we were working. Pesticides, of course, drifted with the wind into our rows. Some got sick, but you could not complain out of fear of being fired. We literally worked day to day to buy food. Too often, because there was so little, there wasn't enough food, especially because We were a large family. In the spring and summer, we all worked hard so the kids could spend some time in school during the fall and winter. My oldest sisters were good students, and they liked school, but they had to drop out to help support the rest of us. That is the only reason why I could go to college. When I applied to college, the process of navigating the maze of applications and financial aid and scholarships was a foreign world for my parents, as much as they wanted to help. The day I left for St. Mary's College in Northern California was very emotional. All my life, my dad was a firm, strict disciplinarian, but he prepared what I call a care package. Put some homemade tortillas, and he put the chorizo and some Mexican sweet bread, and he, wrapped it all up, packaged it in a cardboard box, and secured it with twine like the farm workers used. And he walked me out to the car so we could talk privately. He said, I don't know why, he says, I want to apologize to you. I wish I could have done more for you. I wish I could pay for it myself. To do this for you so you would have nothing else on your mind except to study. I was taken aback, seeing this man who worked so hard, 12, 13 hours a day to raise all of his kids and never abandoned any of them. I don't know how many students at this campus come from backgrounds similar to mine, but I certainly hope and I'm confident that this university will continue offering young people who enjoy few opportunities and privileges in life the same chance that my college gave me. It is with that aim in mind that I'm proud, so very proud, to join the academic community by accepting the honorary doctorate next month and becoming a colleague of the faculty. In fact, I'm really excited. Never happened to me before. And I think of the day when I'm going to wear that, do I wear a cap and gown? Yeah. Okay, I'm wearing a cap and gown. My two granddaughters are going to be there, and they're probably going to wonder, is that how long it takes to graduate? Do I have to be a grandma before I graduate from college? But I'll explain it to them. Anyway, I'm also honored to join your faculty, so many of you who work so hard for our young people, with sisters like Bianca Guzman, who came to this country as an undocumented child. She grew up in a working class neighborhood, attended public schools. She is not only an alumni of this campus, but inspires students every day as a leader and chair of the Chicano-Chicana Studies Department. There are numerous stories of faculty in this room who every day are touching students and growing another and new generation of leaders like Bianca. Two things changed and guided my life. First, of course, Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and the farm worker movement. It opened the door to lead people out of poverty and oppression. For me, Cesar is more than a figure in a textbook or a name on a street sign or a character in a movie. And second, there were the social teachings of the Catholic Church, revealed to me as a young girl at our parish in West Fresno, especially Rerum Novarum, the condition of labor, which is the papal encyclical from Pope Leo XIII. He promoted the human dignity through the just distribution of wealth and the right to organize into unions. I think there's a new pope in town that is talking about the same things. We were farm workers who migrated with the crops, but we always carried our faith, our hope, and our sense of obligation to those who had even less than we did. Those were revolutionary concepts, but they opened my eyes as a young girl and as a farm worker. And since then, almost my entire life has been spent either as a worker or in the labor movement. dedicated to empowering men and women who are breadwinners and the sons of daughters whose lives I shared. The lessons I learned growing up came with me when I organized in the hotel and restaurant worker industry. And now I try to apply those lessons each day as leader of the labor movement in Los Angeles. Sisters and brothers, this campus doesn't have walls around it. It isn't isolated from the communities that surround it. What motivates me and gets me out of bed every day is fighting for the parents and the grandparents of the many of the students that you teach in your classrooms. One of the great joys of my life has been seeing humble men and women turn through self-organization into fearless champions for their families and into active participants in the civil and the political affairs of their community and our nation. We in LA Labor teach housekeepers, janitors, and dishwashers, and now port drivers, sanitation workers, car wash workers, and airport security officers to courageously stand up for their rights, demand a fair share of what they themselves produce. We taught mostly immigrant workers to nonviolently march and picket, and yes, sometimes get arrested, the same way Cesar Chavez taught us, the same way Dr. Martin Luther King taught us. LA Labor boldly leads the American labor movement in standing up for the rights of immigrants. You know, we're proud of that. In an era of poisonous immigrant bashing, you remember back to the days of Prop 187, everything that came, first state in the country to go after immigrant workers. In that era, and it continued for many years, many immigrants felt abandoned, of course, by government and used by candidates and politicians. But there are two exceptions in LA, the Catholic Church and organized labor. Steadfastly championed immigrants and workers and stood by against fear and prejudice. LA Labor, the rest of the American labor movement, and this labor leader, we will not rest until Congress enacts and the president signs into law comprehensive immigration reform that is humane, reform that is equitable to all undocumented immigrants. And in the meantime, we demand a stop to all deportations. Those are very important to our communities. And let me tell you a story. For people and workers like Ramon Mendez, a roofer in the construction industry, father to 4 American-born children, he decided, we knew all the risks, he decided he would file a claim against his employer for wage theft. Not just cheating out of wages, outright wage theft, where he had to work off the clock for a certain number of hours and then on the clock. Now, instead of the authorities investigating his employers, federal ICE agents went hunting him down at his home. Because Ramon lacks legal status, his employer used it to exploit him and his co-workers. We in LA Labor also work hard at challenging ourselves to be innovative. Let's come up with different ways of creating the strength in our community to win what's fair. We have led and supported strategic campaigns that have started to lift tens of thousands of workers out of poverty. Lifting them up means that these breadwinners will be able to provide a better life for their family. They'll be able to rent their own apartment instead of cramming in a single space 1, 2, or 3 families. They'll be able to put food on the table instead of relying on the meals their children receive at school. And with little that they might have left over, just maybe, they'll be able to set aside some savings so that their children can attend a college like Cal State LA. LA is a special place. We have movie stars and beaches and glamour. But now you can do something in LA that you can't do anywhere else in America. You can get your car cleaned at a union car wash. And this morning, I was proud to stand next to workers and business owners announcing 14 new unionized car washes in Los Angeles. This was a campaign that was led by the Steelworkers Union. I guess the connection is cars used to be made out of steel or something. I'm not sure. But they decided they were going to help these workers. And it took 5 years to get to this point. And they have a long way to go. But out there on the picket lines were actors and musicians, construction workers, Walmart workers. I mean, they were able to galvanize and inspire so many workers, and this led them to this victory. We're trying to transform a port trucking industry that amounts to little more than sweatshops on wheels, exploiting port drivers. You know, more than $40 billion worth of goods went through the port of LA in 2012. And port drivers handle 30% of the goods that move in and out of the entire country. Obviously, a very important part of our economy. President Covino, wouldn't you think that's right? But many of them are like Douglas Herrera, who can't even afford an apartment. So every day he sleeps in his truck. Port drivers recently took their fight to the port's container terminals during a 48-hour strike. Members of the Longshore Workers Union refused to cross the port drivers' picket lines during that strike, in an act of solidarity for them to be able to have a chance at a good middle-class job. Postal workers across the country here in LA are battling a cynical deal between the U.S. Postal Service and Staples. Yeah, you know, the office supply stores. Staples workers, likely with minimal training and earning poverty pay, will take over the work now performed by trained postal workers who have years of experience, who protect our privacy, and who have decent pay, benefits, and a retirement. Proud to say that the California Federation of Teachers just took action to boycott Staples in support of the postal workers, if it comes to that. And I want to say iron workers, concrete iron workers that unload, place, and tie reinforcing steel in the tall buildings that shape our city skyline. The basic rights of workers at one particular company, Millennium Reinforcing, are not respected. Iron workers like Alfredo Perez are denied overtime pay or rest breaks. Their workplace injuries are ignored. But those workers, through Local 416 of the Iron Workers, fought back. They organized, and with help from community groups and labor, were aiding their campaign to ask big developers to not use them. Hence, hearing the outcry, one developer, Hanover Company, decided not to use Millennium Reinforcing at their two major downtown developments. Yesterday I heard another big developer is doing the same thing. We are helping the Teamsters Union, which champions mostly women workers at waste recycling facilities. These workers endure unspeakable conditions in an industry that treats them like the trash that they sort. At the urging of workers like Carla Campos, the LA and the labor movement, the LA City Council made history just a few weeks ago by adopting the Zero Waste LA franchise ordinance. It is the nation's most far-reaching overhaul of a major urban city's waste and recycling system. Under this new policy, LA will divert 90% of its waste from landfills. That's good for everybody. Just imagine, through the same policy, through the same ordinance, it is also going to ensure safer, sanitary job conditions for the thousands of trash haulers and the workers who sort that trash, all in the same policy. The filth and the exploitation at these waste recycling facilities may be far removed from the halls of learning at Cal State LA, but they aren't, because the workers at those plants have the same aspirations for their sons and daughters as parents from more affluent and advantaged families, including the aspiration of sending their sons and daughters to this university. The LA County Federation of Labor has recently focused our effort on exposing a different Los Angeles than that may be pitched by some. It is an LA that is faster becoming a city of haves and have-nots. An LA that is one of the low-wage capitals of the United States. We commissioned an economic study about low-wage workers in LA, conducted by the Economic Roundtable. And as a result of that, we unveiled billboards highlighting one stunning fact from that study. More than 810,000 workers just within the city of Los Angeles make poverty-level wages. That's 46% of the people who work within the city of Los Angeles. 46%. 46% of workers and their families are trying to escape by on poverty pay in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Imagine if 46% of the people in our city were being denied some other basic human freedom or some constitutional right. We would just rise up. It would be considered a human rights crisis of immense proportion. It would be a crisis that would compel everyone to act. Shouldn't this economic apartheid of poverty wage jobs also compel all of us to act? I think so. I think so. We all need to figure out, we need to act in a way that's going to make that big number, 810,000, smaller. If all of these low-wage workers in LA made $15 an hour, it would reshape our entire economy for the good of everyone. If all of these low-wage workers in LA made $15 an hour, it would generate 64,000 new jobs. Because we would spend that money. Right? It would create enough city revenue to fill, get this, 1 million potholes. And we want to see those potholes filled, right? It would be enough money to hire 1,000 additional first responders. Or we could keep every library open every single day. That would be good for everyone, no matter where you live. Making that big number smaller are hotel workers in LA's booming hospitality and tourism industry who have proposed $15 an hour in a campaign called Raise LA. Where are you? What's this group over here? Making that big number small are fast food workers and Walmart workers, because they're fighting for a living wage at our nation's most profitable retailers and restaurants. Workers earning a living wage would also be good for Cal State LA and for the working class parents who send and who aspire to send their sons and daughters to study here. It will begin to refuel a starved public education system. Students have been fighting to ensure an accessible and equitable education system. Faculty and support staff are fighting to bring more resources into the classroom and ensure that the profession is respected and dignified through the fair contracts. All of us, and I'm sure your students, have dreams for their lives. Making career, maybe even having a family. Graduating from this college is a milestone along the path of achieving those dreams. But beyond those dreams, most of us also ask ourselves at some point, what kind of a life do we want to have? Even though he never made it past the 8th grade, Cesar Chavez got many of his ideas through education. He was incredibly well-read, and he was self-educated. It's important to remember that Cesar's vision of education transcended individual ambition and personal desire. Let me end with just a few of his words. He said, "We cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations, to include the needs of others for their sakes and our own." Thank you very much, sisters and brothers.
Okay, I'll stand right here. We're going to we have one question. We'll take a couple of questions before we give you the opportunity. I know you want to take pictures, you want to meet, you want to talk. And so we'll move into the reception so we can have a more informal opportunity to honor our colleague and our comadre and our friend. Comadre. Yeah, we're comadres. I think, Maria Elena's remarks have very, very clearly set the course for us when we look forward to the activities that in the next year and under President Covino's leadership. In order to be an engaged community, we must be a community that cares. And she certainly has talked to us about how to care and how to love, and reminds us of the importance of the values that we learn within our families and within our communities, and the way in which we leverage and translate those values into work on behalf of our communities, on behalf of our students. So we are comadres because our children, our students are part of our families. Somos familia, all of us. We have a question from, appropriately, Lois Andre Beachley, who is with Charter College of Ed. Where is she? Is she back there? The public schools in Los Angeles have not served all students well, particularly those from immigrant, poor, and underserved communities. Families in those communities need access to information that allows them to become more knowledgeable about current educational issues that will impact their children's school success. Our University and College of Education have the expertise to provide students and their families with a wide range of information that will empower and enable them to demand educational access and opportunity. The County Federation of Labor represents thousands of working families that could benefit from the information and knowledge that we have to share. How can you envision a partnership between the County Fed and our campus to help families become more knowledgeable and powerful advocates for their children's education? Thank you, Lois.
Well, I think that's a great question. President Covino and I have been at a number of different meetings with different groups and business leaders, civic leaders, and we're trying to figure that out all the time, is how do we bring to bear in a very focused way the resources that we have, rather than try to do things in silos and separate from each other. So that, I think, more and more organizations, businesses, elected leaders, we're all coming to that same conclusion, that it's not enough to do it within our own groups. So I look forward. I know there's ways to do far more to getting that word out. And as I mentioned earlier, how difficult it was for me, and that was back then, for me to be able to get that information. And had I not had an older brother, it's a couple of years older than me, he went to Cal State in Fresno, and had he not been there with me, side by side, walking me through it, I don't know what I would have done. So we need people that we trust, that the community trusts. We need organizations that the community trusts, and we can hook up in a number of different ways that I know within the labor movement, within anybody on this campus. We look forward to doing that, and I think when we put our resources together, our community will benefit. So we're for that. Any ideas that you have, we're very open to doing that.